Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be taking a look at landing the F-18 over here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Let's go ahead and get started. Now the first things first, with this aircraft, this is normally a carrier plane. Unfortunately, we don't have that capability yet. We'll probably have it in the future. That's going to be a fun video to mess up a few times, but we still can put this thing down on the ground normally. Now there's a couple different things we want to be paying attention to during our landing. Now, the first thing we're going to be interested in is this lovely circle with a little line here. This represents where our end point will be if we just leave the controls exactly where they are and not do any power changes. So if I were not touch anything right now, this aircraft would crash right into this tree right here. Now this is a super useful tool for us because we can put this at the end of the runway and keep it there until we safely get down on the ground. So this is an excellent reference for us. The next thing we're going to be interested in is going to be the AOA indexer, which is this little thing right on the side here. This tells us what angle of attack we're landing at. Ideally, we want to have exactly one orange circle here. Now, if we have a little arrow pointing this way, it means that we need to get the nose down. If we have an arrow pointing up, it means we need to get the nose up. And it's just a matter of kind of playing with the power all the way down. The next thing we're going to be interested in, of course, is making sure we configure the aircraft properly. Now, this is normally, like I said, a carrier plane, so we'd have a couple extra switches in the real world to press, one of which would be this one. Not going to work. We're going to make sure our landing light's turned on. We're going to leave our flaps on auto. If you're not feeling very confident, feel free to pop the flaps. Anti-skid wants to be turned on, otherwise we're going to make a really, really bad flat spot on the tire, especially me. We're going to make sure our hook is in the up position. We definitely don't want that. Once we get underneath about 230 knots, we're going to go ahead and drop our landing gear. I'll go ahead and do that now. Snap that sucker down. Go ahead and unpause, and now we're going to begin our descent. So like I was saying before, that little circle, the flight path vector, the one with the wings, all we're going to do is we're basically going to put that on the end of the runway. We're going to ideally try to get it right here where the big old W is. Now the W right now, of course, is fixed. This line here is not. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to slowly cut the throttle and lose some altitude here, because I notice that my aircraft is exceptionally high. Now one of the great things here is we do have a nice fly-by-wire system, and it simplifies things. One thing you can't do, though, is allow yourself to get a little bit too much tunnel vision here. So we're going to go ahead and do our quick checks here. I'm getting a little fast. Put the nose down. You're going to find this a weird kind of combination of not sensitive and sensitive at the same time. You'll know exactly what I mean the first couple times you try it. It's almost like the aircraft is over-damped is the way to describe it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to put our little flight path vector right at the end of the runway. You can see I've got that sucker set there right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to slowly back the throttle up. It does not take much. What's going to happen is if we try to keep our flight path vector, the aircraft is going to start slowing down, which is going to start increasing the angle of attack on the aircraft. Now, one of the things you got to watch out for is a little tiny power change in this aircraft is a drastic change in angle of attack. That's kind of the nature of a beast like this. Go ahead and put the nose down, kind of slide down. Fortunately, that little staple that they modeled on the side of the AOA indexer is exactly backwards to what I know from the F-16. And it's messing with my head right now. I'm just going to bring ourselves to left just a tiny bit. I can see there's still two white lights, which means we're pretty darn high. Go ahead and cheat the system a little bit here, lose a little bit of altitude. I got plenty of energy, so I'm not worried about it too much. There we go. Now we got one white and one red. Now we're talking. Now we're just going to take that flight path vector. We're going to stick it right at the end of the runway. Watch your throttle here. If you start seeing your speed get low, it means it's already too late. There we go. We're doing about 135. That's usually a pretty decent approach speed. And pull my throttle down just a tiny bit. Got a little bit of a crosswind today. Nothing this aircraft landing gear can't handle. This is a carrier plane. 135, but notice it took absolutely nothing to get to that speed. And I still feel like something's pushing against my controls here. Again, use your throttle carefully here. Embrace the crosswind. Pull the throttle back. We're just going to ease in onto the ground. A little bit wide, but we're down. We're going to go ahead and engage our speed brakes. And we're going to hold the nose off the ground. The goal here is to basically bleed off some speed aerodynamically. And now we can start smoothly bringing in the brakes. Once you get below 100 knots, you can go ahead and let that front wheel come down. Go ahead and engage those brakes. Make sure speed brakes are out. And we are good to go. There's no thrust reverse or anything like this in this aircraft. It's just a matter of kind of hitting the brakes there. Once we do slow down, of course, one thing we want to do is go ahead and pop off that lovely landing light so we don't blind anybody, although honestly it kind of points downwards, so it's not bad. But other than that, we find ourselves safely on the ground, ready for another flight. Enjoy.